Je voudrais du soleil vert, des dentelles et des théâtres, des photos de bord de mer, dans mon jardin d'hiver. Je voudrais de la lumière, comme en Nouvelle-Angleterre. Je veux changer d'atmosphère, dans mon jardin d'hiver. Ma fleur sous la pluie de novembre, tes mains qui courent, je n'en peux plus de t'attendre. Les années passent, il est loin, là je tombe. Nul ne peut nous entendre. Je voudrais du Fred Astaire, revoir un latte.
That congressman is Ted Deutsch of Florida. He joins me now. Good to have you here, sir. Do you believe the president? Do you believe the president misspoke when he said would instead of wouldn't?
No, I don't believe that, and you don't get do-overs. And if the president really meant to change the record, he would have said, I didn't mean to attack our neighbors, our friends in the EU, and call them a foe. I would have praised them. I didn't mean to question our commitment to Article 5. I would have reaffirmed it. And I didn't intend for everyone in the world watching that press conference to think that I was on the same side of Vladimir Putin. I would have worked hard to stand up for American security and American values.
All right,
didn't do any of those things.
You say you don't get do-overs on the world stage, but are you at least glad that he did do this part over? That he did try to clean this up instead of just leaving it out there?
It's not a question of cleaning up one word. By the way, cleaning up, the stories that have come out of the White House all make clear that the president issued that statement. He read it. It looked like he was forced to read that statement about one word. That's not what this is about. It's about the president's alarming performance, the horrifying performance in front of the world stage with Vladimir Putin next to him that leaves open the question, who's the president working for? Is he working for our own national security, or is he working with Vladimir Putin and for him?
Yes or no, and then we'll move on to the follow of this. Yes or no, having a good relationship with Russia is a good thing?
Having a good open relationship with anyone is a good thing, but
let me just
go ahead.
Yes or no? Let me follow up with you, because I get the rhetoric. We all hear how the president sort of appeases Vladimir Putin. We don't hear him criticize Vladimir Putin. But would you concede that his administration's actions against Russia, be it the sanctions, be it the selling of anti-tank missiles to Ukraine, are tough actions on Russia, arguably tougher actions on Russia, some would say, than the Obama administration?
Poppy, we had to drag the White House kicking and screaming to impose sanctions on Russia. And if I can clarify, of course having a good relationship with a country is always in our interest. But it's not in our interest to go on the world stage and to suggest that we're rolling over for a country that hacked our election, that commits cyber warfare, that interferes in governments all throughout the world, and to do so next to a murderous dictator like Vladimir Putin. No, that is absolutely not in our interest at all.
I think everyone wants to know what was discussed between President Trump and President Putin behind closed doors with just their translator. So, Democratic Congressman Joe Kennedy this morning on New Day talked about his desire to have the U.S. translator, for example, potentially subpoenaed in front of Congress to talk about that. Would you be supportive of that?
I would love to know what happened, and I would love to get that information however we could. I think that my Republican colleagues should join me and should join all of us who are clearly following up on the president's own statements from 4 months ago that he wants to testify under oath before Robert Mueller. Instead of relying on the translator, I think we should give the president that opportunity. He should come to Mueller. he should raise his right hand and then tell the truth about what he said in that meeting, about how it impacted our national security, about whose side he is on, and let him try to justify that horrifying and alarming display that we saw just the other day, one that we're going to be talking about for decades to come.
It's very clear, and correct me if I'm wrong, that you are very concerned about Russia's attack on our democracy and interfering in the 2016 election, yes?
Of course.
Okay, so given that, on May 22nd, a few months ago, there was this classified briefing for all House members to talk about ways to protect our election integrity heading into the 2018 midterms. The people that ran it, big important names on that front. DHS Secretary Kirstjen Nielsen, FBI Director Christopher Wray, DNI Coates. It was lightly attended by members of the House. 40 to 50 showed up. Were you there?
Right. I've had meetings with government, with all of the government officials across throughout the administration who are working on these issues through the work that we do in the Judiciary Committee.
I hear you, Congressman, but let me just ask you, did you attend that meeting?
The meeting that, which meeting? The meeting with
May 22nd meeting with Nielsen, Wray, and Coates.
Right. I was not at the meeting. I was not at the meeting with Nielsen. I have had repeated meetings with officials about securing our election. The concern that we have.
I understand that, but this was a classified briefing. This was a classified briefing for all House members on election protection. Right. Do you wish you had gone?
We have had other classified briefings as well. What I wish, Poppy, and I've been very clear about this, what I wish is that the House Judiciary Committee took seriously the attack against our last election and against our democracy. What I wish is that we saw from the Justice Department and had an opportunity to question the Attorney General again about steps that have been taken to secure our elections the next time. And most importantly, I wish that the President of the United States, this is what I think all of us would like to see, I wish that the President of the United States would acknowledge that we were attacked by Russia in the last election.
It is Friday, the 20th of July of 2018, and you are in West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy. I am your chef de cuisine, Justice Putnam, and our daily special is Blue Moon Spirits Fridays, folks, because if you're going to have to live in the land of treason, you might as well have a French 77 to let it smooth itself out. Oh, my. Yeah, well, looks like not only is Russia benefiting from this trade war? Well, yeah, because Russia is picking up all of the products that are being dropped. China dropped the soybean order from old America here, and Vlad gets it. Isn't that funny? Isn't that weird how that happens? Let alone the fact he's going to come in the fall to the White House in the Oval Office to say thanks, and you got any more absolute top secret things that you can give me? I'm right here. You don't have to get it out of the country yourself. I have a way to do it. I've got a diplomatic pouch. Don't worry. Well, it looks like Vlad is reawakening his nuclear program. They're going to have a nuke test soon. Thanks, Don. You know what pisses me off? Is that since I was a little kid, precocious as I was, I thought the idea of diving under a desk was a lost cause. Why do it? And why then, as I got a little bit older, I put 2 and 2 together, and it did equal 4, not 5, because that equation then concluded that if you didn't have the threat of nuclear war, you wouldn't have little kids traumatized diving under a desk over a stupid lost cause you're going to get incinerated anyway. And so the whole idea of anti-nuclear proliferation was, as I would say at my age, a lifelong endeavor. So I think this guy owes a lot, and it's being exacted. And we should also conclude this is not just started with Trump. They have been on a 70-year endeavor to do this. And all those hearings about liberals this and liberals that are going to go under the Soviet sway and the Russians are going to... And who does it every single time? Who comes under the force of a foreign power to undermine America? Every single time is the GOP. Every single time. Do I have to remind folks about Nixon, sidling up to the North Vietnamese saying, hey, it's 1968. Hubert might be able to win this, as weird of a voice guy that is. But he's a pretty good politician in spite of it. And the only way I can win is if the North Vietnamese, slow things down at the Paris peace talks. And then we secretly bombed Cambodia during his tenure. Remember that? Oh, yeah. Do I have to speak about Reagan and his administration? I would think is committing treason, selling arms to terrorists. What? In contravention of a law? Huh. I don't know. Seems to me they can't win without a little bit of outside help. Well. What's on the rest of the menu? Ted Deutsch. I don't know what's up with Poppy Harlow. Maybe she's trying to get a job in the administration. That Newark gal at State, the spokesperson at State, before she heard anything from the White House about picking up U.S. citizens like a former U.S. ambassador and spiriting them back to Russia to be interrogated in a gulag. I mean, any normal person would say that's stupid on his face, and that's what she said. Same thing as what Dan Coates said. And it looks like now they're saying from the White House sources, I think that's Stephen Miller, by the way, that Dan Coates has gone rogue. So I think this Newark gal at State, she's out now. And she's, kind of cute. She's got that blonde look and stuff. And Poppy Harlow doesn't look exactly like her, but Poppy Harlow has that blonde look that, they like. I think she's angling for a job there. But Ted Deutsch wasn't having anything of it. Yeah, Trump's been harder on Putin than any other president, especially Obama. Uh-huh. They say that we are suffering from Trump derangement syndrome. I think Trump derangement syndrome is when you are part of the cult and you can't figure out why people don't like this guy. He's a mirror of your soul, isn't he now? What's on the rest of the menu at the Bistro Cafe, part of West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy Blue Moon Spirits Fridays? Well, the California Supreme Court orders that proposal to split up the state, into 3 parts, by the way, be removed from the November ballot. There's a little bit of question that there was something weird about how that even got put on the ballot. Maybe they forgot to change some Cyrillic words in the petition. We'll have to find out. Sinclair Broadcasting was denied because the company did not fully disclose facts to the FCC on its intended Tribune merger. Oh, wow. They probably just figured lying was, the frank of the room. And Agriculture Secretary Sonny Perdue dismisses U.S. farmers facing huge losses from Trump's trade war as collateral damage. He loves you. After the break, then we move to the chef's table, where an Oklahoma health department official sent threats to herself and then blamed it on angry pot smokers. Sounds to me like she might be the angry pot smoker. And Britain has identified the Russians suspected of the Sergei Skripal nerve agent attack. All that and more on West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy. Bon appetit. bottom of our homepage at netrootsradio.com, you'll find the chat room link on the rightish of the page, monitored by Kelly Lincoln, who will be in New Orleans for Netroots Nation 18. And say hi to her when you're there, okay? If you are. And if you would, there is a link so that you could contribute to the cause of, well, you know, helping to buy dinner, lunch, and maybe even breakfast too. To the leftish of the chat room link, you'll notice the contribute donate buttons. We're doing a little bit of work on that. So if you would instead contributions over to Kelly for Netroots Nation 18, that would be much appreciated. So thank you very much for your generosity. You can follow Netroots Radio on Twitter at Netroots Radio. That's taken care of by Tom. Thanks, Tom. You can also find us on Facebook. Kelly and I take care of that. Or, I don't know, Zuckerberg, he takes care of it himself. And, yeah, what's up with Zuckerberg with the Holocaust denial thing? I guess this is what happens when soulless coders get a little bit too much money and think that they have power now, and they know the secret to the universe by dint of the fact that they've accumulated all this material wealth. Yep. Okay, and you can follow me on Twitter at Justice Putnam. Follow the show on Twitter at Cookbook West. Go over to Facebook and find the show there at Cookbook. I'm sorry, at West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy, of course. And why Facebook? You make it so hard. No, you don't. Hey, also podcasts of the show can be found by way of Spreaker, Stitcher, iTunes. Go ahead and rate us on iTunes, please. Tune in, and gosh, even YouTube. We're all over. All right. So let's get on with this first article here. In the Bistro Cafe part of West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy, Blue Moon Spirits Fridays. This is a article out of Reuters and reporting by Steve Gorman, editing by Peter Cooney. The California Supreme Court ordered the November ballot purged of an initiative that seeks to split California into 3 states, citing significant questions raised about the proposal's validity. State election officials certified last month that supporters of the so-called Cal 13 measure, also known as Proposition 9, had collected enough signatures to qualify it for the ballot in the country's most populous state. An environmental group, the Planning and Conservation League, challenged the measure in court, arguing it posed a revision of the state constitution as opposed to an amendment that is too sweeping to be legally subjected to the direct consent of the voters. Citing with the opponents for the time being, the court directed state election officials to keep the measure off the upcoming November ballot to allow the justices sufficient time to review and decide the merits of the case. The court left open the possibility of allowing the initiative to be put before the voters in the future, saying the, quote, potential harm in permitting the measure to remain on the ballot outweighs the harm of its delay. Interesting, huh? Wouldn't it have been nice if we had had actual trumpeted evidence of Trump's collusion? And, well, who doubted for a moment that he wasn't in cahoots with the former Soviet bloc? Huh? Who doesn't? I mean, this guy was a forward thinker in some ways. He knew that the Soviet Union couldn't sustain itself, and it would fall into, you know, the birth pangs of what it means to be out from under the yoke of that. All right. Well, the initiative was launched by billionaire Silicon Valley venture capitalist Tom Draper, who has argued that California's size makes it ungovernable. It seemed to be doing damn good. The reason that he doesn't like it is because of these pesky little things like, oh, I can't do everything I want to do when I want to do it. I'm of a higher class of human beings. He failed in 2 previous bids to qualify a 6-way split of California for the ballot. You know, the number one group that was pushing all of these splitting up of California has been a Russian group, part of the GRU. And some of those people who are running those groups are out of the country, back home. Yep, Odessa, other places too. Okay. Oh, Draper decried the outcome as indicative of a corrupted political system, saying this is not the way democracies are supposed to work. Yeah, I like it when libertarians tell us how democracies are supposed to work. Opponents said Draper's partition plan would be chaotic and a costly waste of time. Voter approval of Cal 13 would not automatically divide California into 3 states. Instead, the governor would be directed to petition Congress to approve the split as called for under the U.S. Constitution, and the president would be required to sign such legislation into law. Trump would say, "Hey, who needs Congress? Give that to me, I'll sign it." The last time a state was split apart was during the Civil War, when a partition of Virginia seceded to form West Virginia. Under Cal 13, California, home to nearly 40 million people, would be partitioned into Northern California, comprising San Francisco, Sacramento, and a tract extending to the Oregon border. Southern California, including San Diego and inland cities such as Fresno, Bakersfield, San Bernardino, and Riverside. And a new California consisting of Los Angeles and a coastal swath stretching north to Monterey. I don't know. Let's privatize it all. Let's just be done with it. David Shepard of Reuters brings us this next offering here. The Bistro Cafe, part of West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy. Blue Moon Spirits Fridays. Sinclair Broadcasting Group, Inc. did not fully disclose facts about the aspects of its $3.9 billion acquisition of Tribune Media, the U.S. Federal Communications Commission said, in an order release that referred the issue to an administrative law judge for a hearing. The order is a blow to Sinclair's bid to acquire Tribune. Sinclair had sought to remove questions about 3 stations referenced in the order by dropping divestiture plans on Tuesday. The FCC said the judge will review if Sinclair engaged in misrepresentation or a lack of candor, and if the deal would violate the FCC's broadcast ownership rules. Sinclair did not immediately comment on Thursday, but said on Wednesday, "At no time have we withheld information or misled the FCC in any manner whatsoever with respect to the relationships or the structure of those relationships proposed as part of the Tribune acquisition." You know what occurs to me? What if Sinclair Broadcasting is getting some rubles in their coffers in which to be able to acquire all these stations? I wonder. I like I say, follow the rubles wherever they may go. Now, it's purely speculation. I'm sorry. Okay, shares of Sinclair, the largest U.S. local broadcast station operator, fell almost 2.5% on Thursday and are down 19% since FCC Chairman Ajit Pai said on Monday he had serious concerns about the deal. Sinclair said on Wednesday it will drop plans to divest stations in Dallas, Chicago, and Houston to expedite the transaction after the FCC suggested the company would still control the stations. Okay. The FCC said Sinclair did not fully disclose facts, including the pre-existing business relationships between Fader, Smith, and Sinclair, nor the full entanglements between Cunningham, Smith, and Sinclair. Apparently, these are CEOs of companies that Sinclair is domestic from in these various markets that were listed up above. Such facts raise questions about whether Sinclair was the real party in interest and attempted to skirt the Commission's broadcast ownership rules. The FCC said it questioned the legitimacy of a proposed sale of such a highly rated and profitable station. What's wrong with my mouth? In the nation's third largest market to an individual with no broadcast experience, with close business ties to Sinclair, and with plans to own only the license and minimal assets. Okay, I see. They were setting up little shadow ownership of these various stations so that they could still fall under the very liberal policies that Ajit Pai has instituted in the FCC on these ownership rules. And Sinclair couldn't even be bound by that they had to cheat. Well, I don't know. Isn't that part of all of their DNA? Helps us finish up here at the Bistro Cafe, part of West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy. Agriculture Secretary Sonny Perdue belittled American farmers on Wednesday. It's a little bit like weight loss, Perdue said, of the tariffs that are damaging the bottom line for lots of red state U.S. farmers. It's going to be good to get there, but it's a little painful in the meantime. Yeah, just like collateral damage. Isn't that weird? Perdue referred to Trump's reckless tariffs as trade disruptions we're experiencing. Oh, well, that's a nice way to put it. As if they weren't specifically manufactured and imposed by the Trump administration. It's just trade disruptions, just like the rain. It just happens. His remarks echoed Trump's dismissive rhetoric about how trade wars are easy to win. But back in March, Trump announced new tariffs on foreign steel and aluminum. China soon responded by promising to impose 25% tariff on a huge array of American goods, including soybeans and pork. And guess who gets the soybean and pork franchise now? Yeah, Vlad. Trump has also suggested it's the patriotic duty of U.S. farmers to bear the burden of an unnecessary trade war. They want to hit the farmers because they think it hits me. I wouldn't say that's nice, Trump said of China, as it readied its response to Trump's sweeping tariffs. But I'll tell you, our farmers are great patriots. They're great patriots. They understand that what they're doing for this country, but more importantly, what they do for me. Oh, he didn't say that, but he ought to. We'll make it up to them, he said, and in the end, they're going to be much stronger than they are now. He says that to everybody, and then everybody tries to sue him, and they can't. To date, some Republican members of Congress have expressed their anger about the tariffs and have voted to approve a meaningless resolution critical of the tariffs, but they have yet to curb Trump. So, of course, a Trump official thinks it's fine to belittle stressed-out American farmers by comparing their valid economic concerns to his summer diet plan. Well, I don't know, a little collateral damage here, a little collateral damage there. Next thing you know, that excess weight's just worked off, and you can do what you want to do when you want to do it. Okay, let's get to our break. These people. And we'll come back and go through weather from around the world. And of course, we will finish up with the stories that we've curated for you today. You are listening to West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy. And we will be right back.
You are listening to netrootsradio.com.
Please hang up and try again.
From a point at sea to the circles of your mind, a new force is at work for planetary transformation. New radio for a new Earth.
This is Take Two Movie Review. I'm Clinton Johnston. This week, promises. One of the grace notes of Peyton Reed's Ant-Man in 2015 was a credit scene where Michael Douglas's Hank Pym revealed to his daughter, Evangeline Lilly's Hope Van Dyne, that he had overcome his concerns and would now allow her to assume her lost and presumed dead mother's mantle of the Wasp. Says Lilly, it's about damn time. A loud wink to Marvel's foot-dragging over having a female-helmed superfilm. Well, now it's 3 years later, and we have director Reed following himself with Ant-Man and the Wasp. And though 5 male screenwriters have not answered our superheroine prayers, there's a lot that this movie has to offer in that area. First off, Paul Rudd is the tentpole star and one of the writers, so it's no surprise that the movie prioritizes his character, Scott Lang. However, it's Hope's quest that drives all of the movie's action. Not only that, in a refreshing departure from tired tropes, Van Dyne's quest does not involve her working out her daddy issues. It's a shock. Instead, her goal is to save her mother, played by the wonderful Michelle Pfeiffer. There's also a second female-centered story with our antagonist, played by Hannah John Kamen. For a moment, it looks like she's going to pull the old must-revenge daddy trip, but gratefully her compelling subplot involves saving her own life from powers that are threatening to kill her. Even with Lang's story, the center of it is his daughter, Cassie. The movie takes place in the last couple of days of his house arrest after his appearance in Avengers Civil War, and Scott just wants to ride those days out without incident. Of course, Hope and Hank need Scott to violate his house arrest to help save mother-wife Janet, and he wants to help, but fears to because of his daughter. At one point he has a nice little speech with Hope about how focusing on Cassie got him through being in prison, and I wish they had taken just a moment here for him to say aloud that a second prison separation would kill him, just to absolutely clarify the stakes. Ant-Man and the Wasp is a worthy sequel. It's fun, but if you were hoping for what was teased at the end of the last movie, you'll just have to wait for 2019 and Captain Marvel. This has been Take Two Movie Review. I'm Clinton Johnston. Catch up with us at take2moviereview.com and feed us back on our page on YouTube.
This is Scientific American's 60-Second Science. I'm Annie Sneed. It's called the whale shark, and, as the name implies, it's huge. In fact, it's the largest living fish in the world. But there's still much unknown about this big animal.
They're very elusive. They're difficult to catch up with.
Al Dove, an expert on the biology of whale sharks and vice president of research and conservation at Georgia Aquarium. But citizen scientists are helping Dove and other whale shark experts get a fuller picture of this marine creature. Tourists, residents, and professional scientists have documented the fish for an online database called the Wild Book for Whale Sharks by taking advantage of each shark's unique pattern of skin spots.
So the Wild Book architecture was really the brainchild of Zavenar Zumani and Jason Holmberg, and they adapted an algorithm that was used by the Hubble telescope for recognizing patterns in starfield photographs from astrophotography, and realized that the spots on a whale shark are really very much the same idea, that whether we can identify individual whale sharks by their spot patterns, and with the help of whale shark scientists like Brad Norman, who is the lead author on this study, they were able to bring that into a citizen science format that allowed people to upload photographs and use these powerful computer algorithms to recognize individual whale sharks. And at that point, sharks stop being random animals that you meet in the ocean, and they become individuals with stories and histories and futures that are yet to be written. And that's what makes it so seductive as a citizen science project.
Whale shark watchers simply snap a photo of the skin pattern on one side of the fish, preferably the left side, says Dove.
And then you upload a picture of that animal to the Wild Book website, and the people on the back end will tell you whether that animal has ever been seen anywhere before. And that's very exciting. And it's kind of a win-win prospect, because if the animal's never been seen before, then you've added a new animal to the database, and that's exciting. If the animal has been seen before, then you get to know its story and know where it's been and when, and that's exciting too. So it's great fun for scientists, and it's great fun for tourists alike.
All told, the Wild Book database now has over 5,000 citizen science contributors, around 30,000 whale shark encounters covering 54 countries, and more than 6,000 individual whale sharks identified. In the latest study using that data, researchers report that the number of known sites where whale sharks gather has risen from 13 to 20.
By all working together and putting our data into a common pot, and we get a global picture about where whale sharks are and what they're doing.
The study is in the journal Bioscience. The new information may lead to better conservation strategies.
The species is listed as endangered on the IUCN Red List, which means that the population is declining, and that's cause for significant concern. So this is a species that we should all be paying attention to as a bellwether of what might be expected for big animals that live in the ocean.
Thanks for listening. For Scientific American's 60-Second Science, I'm Annie Sneed.
It's Thursday, July 19, 2018.
Does your kid's school district test for lead in its drinking water?
Probably not. Less than half of U.S. school districts do.
Thanks to the leadership of President Trump and Administrator Pruitt, we have made tremendous progress over the past year and a half.
Following in Scott Pruitt's swampy footsteps, acting EPA Chief Wheeler weakens toxic coal ash water protections. June 2018 was the third hottest June ever recorded globally. Plus,
the world's largest hotel company is planning to eliminate 1 billion straws.
Marriott International becomes the latest major corporation to ditch plastic straws.
All of those stories and more straight ahead from BradBlog.com. I'm Brad Friedman.
And I'm Desi Doyen.
Stand by for 6 minutes of independent green news, politics, analysis, and snarky comment.
And I did work for a coal company, and I'm not at all ashamed of the work that I did for the coal company. I think it's been used by some people in a derogatory manner.
Why would anybody be derogatory about working for an industry which kills people and lies about it? Andrew Wheeler, acting chief of the Environmental Protection Agency. This is your Green News Report. Okay, Desi Doyen, not that the EPA cares, but we have a potential problem with lead in the drinking water of our nation's public schools?
Yes, apparently we do. A new report from the Government Accountability Office has found that less than half of the school districts in the United States test their drinking water for lead. And of those schools that did test their drinking water, 37% discovered elevated levels of lead, which is a potent neurotoxin. The GAO report says schools that found lead contamination in their drinking water last year have taken steps to address the problem, but no federal law requires schools to test for lead in drinking water. 41% of school districts serving 12 million students do not test for lead at all. Every individual school should test their water, according to John Rumpler of Environment America.
We've used lead in pipes, in plumbing, in faucets, and fixtures. It's a widespread problem, and we urge the schools to do more to protect kids from any level of lead in the water they drink.
Only 8 states require such testing.
I guess that would just be too harmful for our economy if the EPA actually required U.S. school districts to do exactly that.
Meanwhile, speaking of the EPA, former coal lobbyist Andrew Wheeler, in his first major action as acting Environmental Protection Agency administrator, on Wednesday weakened Obama-era rules that were intended to prevent toxic coal ash waste from contaminating drinking water.
The former coal lobbyist weaken rules concerning coal? Who could have predicted it?
The far-reaching rule gives states authority to set their own standards for coal ash waste, stored at more than 400 coal plants around the country, and even allows them to suspend monitoring for contamination. It also delays cleanup of unlined coal ash waste ponds. This despite recent public health disasters caused by toxic coal ash spills in West Virginia, Tennessee, and North Carolina. Earlier this year, a report issued by coal plant operators in 8 states showed widespread groundwater contamination from coal ash waste. By the way, thanks to loopholes in the federal vacancy law, Wheeler can remain in charge of the EPA without Senate confirmation through 2020.
Hey, that's fantastic.
Meanwhile, June 2018 clocked in as the third warmest June on record globally. That's according to NASA this week, coming in just a hair behind June 2015 and June 2016. It's a remarkable record since there is no El Niño present to boost global temperatures, and further indicates that the global warming trend observed over the last 40 years shows no signs of stopping.
It's a hoax.
Climate change is coming for your internet. A new study predicts that the undersea cables and hardware centers that provide the backbone of the internet could be flooded with salt water as sea levels rise over the next 15 years. Unlike undersea transatlantic telecommunications cables, these buried internet cables are not waterproof. The researchers from the University of Oregon on the study warned, quote, "We have to start working on all of the mitigation efforts today."
Either that or or I may not get to see everything on Twitter?
More not.
That sounds good.
Some good news, though. California has announced that its ambitious climate action policies are succeeding. Last week, the state announced it has already hit its target to reduce its greenhouse gas emissions 4 years early and has pushed its emissions back down to 1990 levels even as its economy grew.
Good for us.
Finally, some more good news. Marriott International Hotels has become the latest major company to join the global movement to ditch plastic straws. The world's largest hotel company announced on Wednesday it will eliminate 1 billion straws and 250 million stirrers used annually at all of its 6,500 locations within the year. Sparked by a plastic straw ban in the city of Seattle that started on July 1st, Marriott joins Starbucks, American Airlines, Hilton, and Hyatt Hotels and other companies in doing their part to end the scourge of plastic pollution.
Thank you, Seattle. For much more on all of these stories and the ones we couldn't get to, please check out our website at greennews.bradblog.com. Find us, follow us, and share us worldwide on the Facebooks and the Twitters if the internet isn't out at Green News Report. I'm Brad Friedman.
And I'm Desi Doyen.
And this has been your Green News Report.
The bluest skies you've ever seen are in Seattle, and the hills the greenest green in Seattle.
You can help stop the Trump agenda in its tracks. Make sure you're registered to vote. Go to rockthevote.org. And on November 6th, vote for Democrats up and down the ticket. This message, a public service from all the fine people of netrootsradio.com.
Insanity reigns. Hidebound Donald Trump partisans keep insisting that their man is not certifiably insane, despite a mountain of evidence to the contrary. But surely, some of them finally must admit that his policy of snatching immigrant children from their parents' arms at the Mexican border and incarcerating the tykes for weeks in warehouse cages far away from any contact with mom and dad is the epitome of Kafkaesque insanity. Trump's political assault on kids, toddlers, and even infants is so cuckoo crazy that it's infectious. In June, for example, Fox News trumpeter Laura Ingraham dismissed reality by declaring that the children's holding cells, quote, are essentially summer camps. Then her sister Fox News commentator Ann Coulter babbled that the reality of Trump troopers seizing and terrifying kiddos was not actually happening. Those child actors weeping and crying on all the other networks 24/7 right now, don't fall for it, Mr. President. For his part, our immigrant-bashing Mr. President began to rant like a dotty old geezer that he would not allow, quote, these people to be given any legal avenue to address their plight. No judges or court cases, he barked in a series of tweets. Tell the people out, and they must leave, just as they would if they were standing on your front lawn. This is Jim Hightower saying, old man Trump is not only a callous grump, but he's also gone completely screwy about the essential role of the rule of law in our nation. In fact, if you stood on the front lawn of his Mar-a-Lago resort, he might have you removed by force, but you'd have access to a court to plead your case and seek justice. That's the American way, whether an autocratic property owner likes it or not. Unless, of course, His Highness arbitrarily nullifies 230 years of legal protections for the people's democratic rights.
If you'd like more of Jim Hightower's real populism, check out the Hightower Lowdown. Jim's monthly newsletter gives you the real lowdown on which corporations, by name, are doing what to the middle class, our environment, and our democracy. Each month, the Hightower Lowdown brings you facts you didn't know, along with actions you can take to fight back. It also comes with a sense of humor. Hightower believes we can fight the gods and still have fun. Plus, get this, it's cheap. Only $15 brings you 12 issues a year. For real populism, go to hightowerlowdown.org.
Thank you for accompanying us here to the chef's table at West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy. Hey, it's Blue Moon Spirits Fridays. That's right. The French 77 have all been mixed to its proper proportions and are awaiting you in this virtual existence. And I hope you enjoy yourself. Once again, the French 77 is the most balanced cocktail in the history of cocktails. Don't take my word for it. Try it. Okay. The elderberry flower liqueur makes all the difference. All right, let's start with weather from around the world, and we start weather from around the world along the banks of the Rogue River in the Rogue River Valley of southern Oregon on the west coast of the continental United States of America, where it is currently 60 degrees, and it feels about like 60 degrees. Isn't that amazing? We'll be having an overnight low in the mid-50s, as we did last night. We are supposed to be somewhat cooler today in the low to mid-90s. We bumped up to around 100 yesterday. The air quality is extremely bad. We have a lot of fires just within 10 miles of where I'm at, a string of them. And they're all small fires in relative respects. But the amount of smoke that they have all contributed to the air has blown our way. And we had a red sky at morning, but not the stormy kind. No. But it's still, take warning. It is smelly, and it's so bad that it has knocked out the air quality sensors on many of the little personal weather stations that people have planted on their property. Amazing. Okay, so winds are now out of the north in gusts, it says. Right now is about 1 mile, but we're getting gusts of about 5. And today, those winds will then be shifting out of the northwest at 10 to 15 miles per hour. Not good for any fires that are still burning. Not good at all. And they will continue through the night at that clip, and then tomorrow morning they'll shift out of the northwest at 10 to 15 miles per hour. So a bit stiffer winds, which are not good, because they actually they fan the flames. Let's see, grass pollen is considered moderate. Once again, I have no data on air quality because it's so bad it's knocked out the sensors. But the daytime UV index remains very high at 9. Take care. Cover yourself up. I have no data on air pressure. Here, let me refresh the page. Maybe it might give it to me. Visibility is down to 7 miles because of the amount of smoke that is in the air. And humidity right now is at 72% and may hold around there. It may go down into the low 60s, but we'll still have some humidity in the air. Okay, so no data on air pressure, such as it is. All right. Weather from around the world is brought to you by People's Personal Weather Stations that they purchased. These people planted these purchased personal weather stations somewhere on their property. And these people positively live around the world. London is 74 and partly cloudy. They do have a heat advisory. Oh, I'm sorry, not a heat advisory. They have thunderstorm activity that may impact electrical infrastructure. Paris is 77 degrees with showers in the vicinity. They also have a lightning and thunderstorm advisory that could knock out critical infrastructure like, the electrical grid. Rome is 88 and sunny. Kiev is 77 and partly cloudy. Kabul is 85 and fair. Hong Kong is 79 degrees with a light rain. Tokyo is 83 and clear. Sydney, Australia is 51 degrees and clear. San Francisco, California is 57 and mostly cloudy. And New York, New York is 78 degrees Fahrenheit and sunny with a heat advisory. But hey, New York by definition is cool. And that is weather from around the world brought to you by People's Personal Weather Stations that they purchased. These people planted these purchased personal weather stations somewhere on their property. And these people positively live around the world. Starting off here in the chef's table at West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy, not counting the weather report. Blue Moon Spirits Fridays is an article out of Raw Story by the great Sarah K. Burris. Okay. The Oklahoma Department of Health is fielding a lot of anger for overregulating medical cannabis after 57% of the state approved it in a June election. One lead attorney for the department even claimed she was getting threats. When the Oklahoma State Bureau of Investigation got involved, however, it was discovered the threats were sent by the attorney herself. Well, she's conflicted. She's just beating up on herself. Come on. According to the Tulsa World, Julie Etzel has submitted her resignation and been taken into custody for false reporting. I think she was high. I'm so sorry, Etzel said to Interim Health Commissioner Tom Bates in an email. A probable cause affidavit shows that the email to Bates came 2 hours after Etzel confessed to the false threats to an OSBI agent. She's been charged with 2 felonies and 1 misdemeanor. According to court records, Etzel used a fake email made on Proton Mail, an encrypted service, at 2 a.m. on July 8th. This after her phone showed searches for whether Proton Mail logged IP addresses and payment information. Her phone then showed access to the Proton Mail account, MaryJane at ProtonMail.com. We will stop you and your greed. Any way it takes to end your evil and protect what is ours, we will watch you. The email she sent to herself. Well, I told you she's conflicted. She then sent the threatening emails to herself about the implementation of the cannabis law. Half an hour later, Etzel reportedly sent a text message, F you. Text me when you are up. I just got a pretty threatening email about medical pot. The report did not say to whom the text was sent. Etzel has deleted her search history after accessing, or she had deleted her search history after accessing Proton Mail. And once again, after sending herself another threatening email and another text message to the same person, reporting she had received another one. That email read, "We will expose your corruption and evil. We would hate to hurt a pretty lady. You will hear us. We are just beginning." I just have to say that the people who are going for like medical pot don't sound like GO operatives who think that that's the way drug dealers talk. Later that day, another email appeared from the Proton Mail account with her address and description of her cars, as well as a message saying, "You appear distinguished in glasses. Wear them for the camera," in a statement. Etzel's attorney tried to do damage control by refuting any judgment on her and instead painted it as a passion for her work. Have you noticed that some people are so passionate about their work that they'll actually lie and send innocent people to jail or even kill them because they're so passionate about their work? Oh, yeah, outside of due process and equal protection, by the way, because when you have to be pretty passionate about your work to forego those ideas, eh? Yeah. Those charges do not reflect who she is as a person, nor do they... Yeah, they do. They totally reflect who she is as a person. She's willing to make up a story, threaten herself, and then say maybe some black people did it. It's a small jump. Hippies and black people. And I got to tell you, the black people get beat up a lot more than the hippies get kicked. Okay. These allegations will be answered, and additional relevant information will be provided by us at the appropriate time. I know he's still figuring out what the hell's going on. That's her attorney, Ed Blau. He called her a loyal and dedicated public servant. Well, that I know you really show your loyalty by making up a crime.
During the investigation, 9 OSBI agents, 3 officers with Edmond Police Department, and 2 officers with OU Health Science Center were dispatched to work the case and to ensure her safety to and from work and home, the release stated. The Oklahoma Department of Health has 2 lawsuits pending saying that they overstepped the law that was passed with their regulation of medical cannabis. One lawsuit from the Oklahoma ACLU alleges a breach of the 14th Amendment because the department would require a pregnancy test for women seeking medical cannabis licenses. They need to have a pregnancy test. Okay. Currently, there is no other such requirement anywhere in the United States, nor does Oklahoma require a pregnancy test for opioid prescriptions.
Je te donne ce mon amour pour la vie entière. La promesse de me trouver à tes genoux. Aussitôt que tu m'appelles, rester toujours fidèle. C'est tout, c'est tout. Je te donne tous mes printemps, mes étés de mer, mes automnes quand les feuilles tombent partout. Si ce n'est pas une bonne affaire, je te donne tous mes hivers.
All right, finishing up here at the chef's table at West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy is an article out of Reuters by Subrat Patnick. British police have identified several Russians who they believe were behind the nerve agent attack on former spy Sergei Skripal and his daughter, the British news agency Press Association said. Britain blamed Russia for the poisonings and identified the poison as Novichok, a deadly group of nerve agents developed by the Soviet military in the 70s and 80s. Russia has repeatedly denied any involvement in the attack. I should also note that they've denied any involvement in all the convenient heart attacks, convenient polonium poisonings, convenient muggings and killings in the foyer of your apartment building, and the always popular convenient fall from a 5-story building moving a piano at a condo, but you don't own a piano and you don't live in a condo. After analyzing closed-circuit television, police think several Russians were involved in the attack on the Skripals, who spent weeks in hospital before being spirited to a secret location. Investigators believe they have identified the suspected perpetrators of the Novichok attack, the unidentified source close to the investigation said. They are sure the suspects are Russian, said the source. After the attack on the Skripals, allies in Europe and the U.S. sided with Britain's view of the attack and ordered the biggest expulsion of Russian diplomats since the height of the Cold War. Russia retaliated by expelling Western diplomats. Since then, a British woman, Dawn Sturgis, died this month after coming across a small bottle containing Novichok near Salisbury, and her partner, Charlie Rowley, was also stricken and is still in hospital. The nerve agent attack on put the Skripals into a coma, though after weeks in intensive care, they have made a partial recovery and have been spirited away to a secret location for their safety. My life has been turned upside down, Yulia Skripal told Reuters in May. Our recovery has been slow and extremely painful. And a British police officer was also injured by Novichok while attending to the Skripals in March, and he remains in hospital. All right, well, that brings us to the end of our broadcast period for the day and the week, though Netroots Radio broadcasts on for all the breaking news for today and throughout the whole weekend. You know, we'll catch up, of course, on Monday for River City Hash Mondays here at West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy. So do stay tuned for live and breaking coverage throughout the day and the weekend on Netroots Radio. And also we have shows. Live shows, call-in shows, check those out. And we will visit with you here. And we will visit with you on Monday in West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy. Bon appetit.
Je voudrais du soleil vert, des dentelles et des théâtres, des photos de bord de mer, dans mon jardin d'hiver. Je voudrais de la lumière, comme en Nouvelle-Angleterre. Je veux changer d'atmosphère dans mon jardin d'hiver. Ma robe à fleurs sous la pluie de novembre. Tes mains qui courent, je n'en peux plus de t'attendre. Les années passent, qu'il est loin, là je tombe. Nul ne peut nous entendre. Je voudrais du Fred Astaire, revoir un latte Goël. Je voudrais toujours te plaire dans mon jardin d'hiver. Je veux déjeuner par terre, comme au long de golfe clair. T'embrasser les yeux ouverts dans mon jardin d'hiver. Ma robe à fleurs sous la pluie de novembre. Tes mains qui courent, je n'en peux plus de t'attendre. Ba-da-da-dum-di-da-dum, 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 dans mon jardin d'hiver. Ba-da-da-dum-di-da-dum, 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 dans mon jardin d'hiver. Dans mon jardin d'hiver, dans mon jardin d'hiver.